Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Cam's Retro Gaming. So this video is to document my recently, as of last week, completed North American Sega Game Gear set. Now, by my calculations, or at least in this table right here, there are 234 games. I've read the number of US releases at 233. Not sure what the redundant game is, or maybe that list was wrong, but here are 234. So the Game Gear was a console, or a handheld rather. I did have it as a kid. I got it after my Game Boy. I distinctly remember getting it on a vacation and really enjoyed playing it as much as my Game Boy. Unfortunately, it had those AAA batteries, 6 of them, and they didn't last super long. So it was an expensive handheld to keep in service, so to speak. So the toughest games, or the harder games to find, typically, one of my cats is making an appearance because they just love this kind of stuff. The Codemaster games, and that's Micro Machines, CJ Elephant, Fugitive, Cosmic Spacehead, Pete Sampras Tennis, and Fantastic Dizzy. Now, in my collection, I have a mix of US and European games, or PAL games, and one Japanese game, because I don't really worry too much about the region. These are all region free, and I'm not going to spend, for example, hundreds of dollars on Pete Sampras Tennis when I can get it for like 30. It just sounds stupid to me. I'm not a huge stickler. This was a fun thing to do, so it's not something that I'm like, it's got to be all the different variants of the game where the game is the same. I don't care about that stuff, man. So these are all unique individual games. I do have a couple variants, but I don't have them on display right now. If I seem distracted, it's because my cats are milling about in this room in the background. Another hard to find game is Mega Man. This is one of the more expensive games. And then Shining Force used to be one of the most expensive games, but you know how games have a tendency of going up and down. So, and I did find Micro Machines locally, which is kind of cool. So we'll kind of do a quick overview in general, and then we'll go to some of the accessories and my Game Gears themselves. So, how many of you guys played Game Gear or had a Game Gear as a kid? I'd be very curious. As far as handhelds, I think it's actually pretty underrated. Had some great games. Had some bad games on it, just like anything else, but it did have some really good games on it. It's funny what games are kind of hard to find on the console. You'd be surprised. For example, we're going to get to it here. There's a game, Solitaire Fun Pack. That was really hard to get, really hard to find. Actually, there's 2 versions of the sports trivia. One's like the championship edition, I think, champion edition, and another one's a regular edition. So I think the champion edition was hard to find too. Tempo is another good one, which is kind of interesting because that's a 32X game, as is Tales Adventure, another kind of expensive game. So that's the Game Gear collection. Let's check out. I have some accessories. I also have some sealed games and some non-US release games that didn't come out here, and just some odds and ends. So let's take a look at those. All right, pardon me guys. So we're actually on the couch here, but I wanted to show off some other things I have in the collection. We have Mick and Mac Global Gladiators. This was a Sega Genesis game, and they never released this. This, I think, is a PAL region game, never released in the US. We have Super Kickoff, Pingo, and of course, the important cleaning gear. Gotta have that. So I do have 2 Game Gears. I have one, I think this one is a non-modded one, stock one. It somehow still works. And then this one is a modded one with a new screen, new caps and everything. Although I do play my Game Gear typically. I have an analog pocket with the Game Gear adapter, so that's my. If I'm playing Game Gear, it's on that. Let's see. I have the turbo. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the turbo tuner, Game Gear TV tuner. Unfortunately, this doesn't work anymore because, TV is now digital. This is not the one I had as a kid, but I do have a Game Gear battery pack, which unfortunately doesn't work anymore. But I think you can replace the internal battery, which is kind of neat. But I had this crazy huge one that attached to my Game Gear as a kid. So let's see what manuals I have. Let's see, I don't search these out, but if I find them, I'll pick them up. Echo the Dolphin, Double Dragon, Sega Sports Trivia, Adventures of Batman and Robin. Actually, this is kind of neat. The last game I needed was CJ Elephant, which is very hard to find for a good deal. And this is the receipt from that. And it was actually went to cancer research, UK. That was it was a charitable organization that all the proceeds went to for that game. So it was expensive. Waited multiple years for that game to find it, and just to kind of bit the bullet. Missed out on that a few times, unfortunately, for cheaper, but that's just how it goes. But I'm happy it all went to cancer research. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, X-Men Mojo World, Cosmic Spacehead, manual, Bubble Bobble, Columns, Woody Pop, Sonic Chaos, Castle of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse, Slider, GP Rider, Ariel, Little Mermaid, World Series Baseball, Power Rangers, Super Columns, Bust a Move, and Cool Spot. I also have the Master Gear Converter, which is a way to play Master System games on the Game Gear. It's pretty cool. And here are some random games sealed or in the box, which I just got because they were cheap. So Caesar's Palace, NBA Action, Leaderboard Golf, PGA Tour Golf, Jungle Book, and everybody's got a copy of Sonic 2 sealed. Probably the most common Game Gear game. And like I said, the games, well, let's just take a look one more time at the games. Okay, so back to the last game I purchased, and that was this guy right here, CJ Elephant. This is the one where all the proceeds went to Cancer Research UK. I had a chance to buy this one at least a year ago for a lot cheaper, but I was being cheap, didn't get it, and I paid up for this one, unfortunately. But I paid less than they go for, which is over $100. Actually, it's I think over $200. They're just so hard to find. And then the second to last game I want to say is Fantastic Dizzy. Doesn't have a label, but I got that one for pretty cheap because of that. And one day I'll upgrade, but it's not any sort of priority. But yeah, one more view of the collection. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Game Gear and any complete collections you may be going for if you're crazy, and you may be asking yourself or asking me, what does it feel like to have a complete game library of a console or a handheld? Well, it feels pretty cool. The journey was probably the best part. It's fun picking these up because, like I said, they were pretty cheap for the most part, except for a few stragglers. But yeah, I recommend it if you have the means to go for a complete set. As long as it's affordable, I recommend it. So, well, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate your views. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And until next time, have a great weekend.